And it's mostly because, we're afraid of what happens when our feelings are too much, because they're always too much. It's always been overwhelming. And that's been the struggle of my whole life. It's just to stay stay on top of it. It's like we made our rule number one. If we were ever going to lose our mind completely and snap and just start murdering everybody, we're going to start right here. You know, and that's why we tried to kill ourselves 4 times. It was just we were that afraid, that we were that angry, that we were that upset that it was going to get out of our control, that we'd just rather take us out first. The emotional consequences of harming other people are just so severe if you have any empathy at all, and that's the thing that we teach you to overcome in the martial arts, and that's the thing we teach you to overcome in the military. To be able to defend yourself or your country or somebody else is you have to be able to overcome that empathy. It doesn't mean that it goes away. It's funny how many people have known us that are gonna that could possibly see these things and be like, "Wow, that's so weird. I never thought that dude had empathy. I have literally seen him bite the top off of beer bottles before he jumps somebody just because he's mad." And that's just. But the anger isn't the truth. And if I jumped that guy, you best believe he just slapped his girlfriend or did something else right in front of me, and I just. It's the part of me I hate the most. Is the propensity for violence as a solution to things. And it's so super triggering when I see anybody else just giving into it. And unfortunately, unlike a lot of us, most of our triggers are very super aggressive. We if things get too excited or start moving too fast, then we will literally lose our sight because our brain and our subconscious are mostly driving, and it doesn't have time to explain what we're doing because we're still doing stuff. You can still feel the body moving. You can still feel things, just without the context. It's very hard to determine what it is you're doing. You know? And then you come to your senses when everything's calmed down and your subconscious has decided that it's okay to let you see what's going on again, and there's nothing happening. Everything's calm. It looks like you can backtrack a whirlwind of activity by looking at the evidence. Now those are some of the parts of me that are very, very do not identify as human. Which is why we just can't let them out, and they just come out in emergencies because I'm never gonna have a yes vote on letting those people out. It's not that they're super dangerous or malicious; they just don't have the ability to recognize that there are people in the moving parts. This guy's leg caught in the machine, dude. Oh yeah, well I really wanted to move him from there to there. Yeah, but before he got there, he was stopped by a brick wall. Oh yeah, man, I brick walls. Who knew? Yeah, so you can, you know, you can obviously see why we were always afraid to talk to therapists about this kind of stuff. You know, we really wanted to start focusing on some of our trauma that we feel like we can work on, which is that since a lot of us really hate being here, they have always tried to increase the pressure enough to make us suicidal. You know, and it's not sad. It's just literally hate being here, hate being incarnate, hate having any sensory input, period. You know, hate having to deal with any of this stuff. So hard, it would just rather murder us. Uh, you know, so when we, since they recognize that the rest of us feel that way about life, and no matter how bad it gets, it's always beautiful. It is. It is. No matter how bad the wreckage is, when you wash up on the shore, the sunset of the ocean is still just the sunset over the ocean, and as beautiful as it ever could be, no matter how you personally feel about it. Beauty is independent. Uh, and so they decided that we were going to punish ourselves for still being here by tending towards forming relationships with severely abusive people. When I think about our two mildest relationships along those lines, one of them would routinely slap us or throw something at us from close range. And we didn't really understand why, because we're big scary, you know. We throw people off balconies, dude. I don't know why you would ever want to start something here. And we eventually figured it out, and we're pretty sure that she was aware that if we had physically harmed her as a response, at that time our mindset would have probably made us marry her or something, you know, and she would have just owned us because we would have felt so bad about hitting her or responding in any way, you know. It was years before I before we struck somebody in a unthinking reflexive response. Of course, they were very determinedly abusive person and had some mental health issues themselves that we were unaware of when we started dating because they didn't choose to share them with us. But recognized them as soon as we found them. You know, like they punched us once and we grabbed their wrists and brought them down to their sides. And as soon as we immobilized them by putting their hands by their sides, they went hysterical and started doing the back and forth of the head and fell to the ground, vibrating. And we recognize this as being a severe trauma response, and we understand something of what causes these things at this point, you know. When we were very young and still recovering from our accident, we were sexually assaulted by an adult in a school faculty bathroom. So made it very hard for us to defend ourselves because we'd rather take a punch than put you back in that space. You know, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that happened, and we understand why you're this mad. You know, we'll try to block better and stay out of range. You know, but we were doing laundry once, and they just decked me, and I just knocked their hand up and straightened up their body so I could punch him in the gut automatically, and I walked out of there crying. And apologizing and being sorry and continuing the relationship. We married somebody who almost killed us. And I think that was kind of a turning point for us. In that we started seeking out people who were more psychologically abusive instead of physically abusive. Because the thing about our physically abusive relationships is that we always felt like, since we were a kid, uh, you know, you can't hit girls, and we're disinclined to hit people anyway. Because even if it's the right thing to do in the moment and it's the correct behavior and I'm defending myself or somebody else, we're still going to cry about it later. You know, some of us are crying about it while it happens, and a lot of the reasons why it's not going to hurt you as bad as it does when we get into an interaction is because a lot of these people are pulling back on our hands as we are manhandling you around, but, you know, they're still screaming at us to stop doing whatever it is and just run the fuck away. But for whatever reason, we've decided that there's somebody or something to protect here. You know, and that's the interesting thing about it, is literally having people who have no concern or care for the repercussions of the consequences of their actions living in the same space with people who are super concerned. And again, I think everybody's like this. I think most people at a very basal level that they're not comfortable existing on have these kinds of responses every time anything happens. We've just kind of always been set on, but these go to 11 million. It's like a lot of times it feels like normality is this lane in a pool that somebody has set up for people to exercise in, and we're just out here occasionally hooking the lane rope. How are we doing? Okay, so far. Yeah. So I think that's the worst thing you can do about it, but I don't know if we really could have done anything different. Is I think that ignoring your mental health issues and the things that they ask of you is the worst thing you can do about it. We always intellectualized ours, so everybody in our personal life has always been aware of our issues. But it's really hard to really grasp it. So because we're really good at covering, and you don't ever really get to see those aspects of us. Except for in very highly circumstances where it is super appropriate. Somebody threatened to pull a gun on you. You stabbed him in the stomach, and he went away. As far as we know, we have never deliberately murdered somebody. I want to say that there's a high chance that we haven't actually accidentally killed anybody either. But I don't know. I mean, you never know what happens after the fight's over. You don't know if they get concussions or internal injuries, and so but we've always tried to hurt people as little as possible, and have never intentionally taken someone's life under those sorts of circumstances. I think we tell ourselves it's something we couldn't come back from, and I think that's a very good way to make sure that we never do it. It's funny to say that, because a lot of our reputation has, I think, traded on the fact that everybody's pretty sure that we had already killed a bunch of people. It's very hard to exist in certain societies without people being pretty sure that you have already killed a bunch of people. And when everything they see about you backs up the idea that you could, and they definitely don't want you coming after them. We got into a confrontation with a couple of acquaintances of ours who were just super boy, super macho, super, hey, let's wrestle because I want to figure out if I could win in a fight against you. And we're about 175, 180 pounds. And they were both over 250 pounds. And the first brother came in at me, and I tied him up and put him on the floor, and I had him in a sleeper hold, and he is going out, dude. And his brother, who is 285 pounds, comes running over, and he's like, "Hey, that's my brother." He's gonna try to help him, because I am reducing him to unconsciousness. And as he came over, I threw up my legs, and I caught him perfectly around the neck, and pulled him down to the ground with me, bumped his head on the ground, and started choking him out too. One of my partners was sitting on the couch, and he laughed about it because he kind of had to, because we don't look like much, but it's like walking into a booby trap. It's like walking into a booby trap somebody spent decades building just for you, dude. And I let him go, and the younger brother, who is a 285 guy, runs over to him, and he's so mad and so butthurt that he tried to fold him into his own lap, just came up behind him, put his forearm across the back of his neck and his other forearm across his chest, just trying to fold him. And I'm running up to him. I am gonna snap this fucker's neck, dude. I do not care. This is not an appropriate response. And so then the other guy gets up off the ground and comes over and starts pulling his brother away because I am already pulling him away. I have my fingers hooked into his nostrils and I am pulling his head back. And if he doesn't let go soon, I'm gonna go for his eyes, man. You know, I just push them both out of the house. Go, buddy, go. But I mean, that's the kind of thing with toxic masculinity. You know, it's so hard to control that there's a good chance it's gonna get you killed, dude. You know, you get into those kinds of pissing contests with people, you're just other people will die. You know, those guys were super serious about fighting. They get into fights in a car while somebody else was driving and just beat the shit out of each other across the seats. Blood dripping down. I never understood that. Who the hell wants to get into a fight in a moving car, dude? But I've had people hit me while I'm driving because they were mad. I married one of them. I think we might have hit our limit for a minute. We're at about an hour, and I can feel the stress burps coming on, and my whole body is just twitching, which is one of the reasons why I tend to wear a lot of concealing garments like robes and stuff. I'd like to thank my partners for letting me film inside the house. I kind of need a quiet place for it. I love you guys. Stay safe.